The Four Lions.
But that one was actually
double barrel on that.
Yeah. Right. See, you're wrong now. Now I know all your opinions are going to be wrong. You're rolling your eyes at Blazing Saddles, and you thought Four Lions was funny. You're wrong.
Where's your gavel? Wrong. The director has called this podcast to order.
Yes, thank you, gavel.
Yeah, I'm the bailiff. Apparently. So.
Change your name to gavel.
Prosecution risks.
We do need to have some amount of structure or an agreement as to how the fuck we were approaching the. Oops.
There it is. There's the one.
Gone.
There's
okay, I think we might have been good.
One more, and we're rated R. All right. So
one too many.
So the way I had understood this was choose 2 movies because we had to limit it to 2 movies of showcase your sense of humor in a way, like a show and tell of what you thought was a funny movie, because we had an argument over dragon movies of like, this wasn't funny. And yes, it was. And so we had to like figure out each other's sense of humor. That's what I had thought this was.
Argument's a strong word, but okay.
So I don't know how you guys were fully approaching this, but that's how I had approached it. Does that make sense? Do you guys remember that type of a conversation?
I just wanted to watch 2 of my favorite movies.
Right. Surprising nobody, the director turned this into a book report.
Yeah, really.
The rest of us just wanted to watch some funny movies.
We wanted to watch comedies, and the director's like, this is going to define... This is our...
this is worth 30% of your final grade.
This is our horoscope reading right here. We've determined who we are as people by these comedy movies.
And one of the other things that we discussed in the pre-show, like if that were accurately the case, we would have been rewatching some other more different movies that we had already talked about on the show because, you would have picked Knight's Tale, I would have picked, Galaxy Quest and Princess Bride probably. So we branched out a little bit, but they should still theoretically be representative of shit you find funny, which is why I'm weird and confused about some of your choices.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I still would have picked these 2.
I mean, I would hope you still would have picked these 2. What Andrea said a minute ago made me wonder.
Right.
It's I like my movie, but it's actually not that good.
I picked it. First of all, I don't watch a lot of comedy, so I went through a list of comedy movies.
Well, here's your picks because I wrote them down. Justify them.
Now.
I just went through a list of highly praised comedy. It was like, oh yeah, I really really love that movie. That's my pick.
You needed a list.
So that doesn't mean anything because Four Lions was highly praised too. But go ahead. This is you are in the spotlight, sir. Tell us why you.
How did I just end up in the spotlight? And I don't
because she put your things up. And I
don't have to defend them. We're just gonna talk about
well, he's not gonna defend Hot Fuzz now. He's gonna throw that one under the bus.
Hot Fuzz needs no defense.
This was one of the best ones on the list, that's for sure.
Okay, just to clarify, I don't think anybody is attacking Hot Fuzz as the movie. We want Andreas to say why he picked it and said that it wasn't one of the funniest movies of all time. Because
we were deliberately talking about comedy movies,
right? So go ahead.
I don't know. I watched it I don't know. I finished it 40 minutes ago. It's on the rewatch, and I had it was fun, and it was good, fun moments, and it's a really good structured movie. There's what do you have? What is it? Justin says that this is criteria for a really good movie, a funny movie. It has to be quotable. There's some pretty good quotes in there. It has kind of The Fifth Element. It's got great setup and callbacks. Almost no lines or situations are wasted. It's all very but
the story is tight, whereas that to me, that's more of the criteria, right? Is the story's got to be internally consistent, and Hot Fuzz is airtight, and it's also fun to watch. Doesn't hurt either, right? It's not a drama. It's not like a noir detective kind of shtick, but there are detective-y kind of elements. But then when the shit goes sideways and it gets really gruesome, it's still funny along the way.
But Andres, you were saying it didn't really hold up on rewatch less than you expected.
It was good. I was entertained, and it was especially those things I said with how tight it was. I really noticed watching it again. I did not laugh as much as I thought I would. I don't know. Maybe it's because I churned through 9 comedy movies in 30 hours.
And none of them were funny.
You got tired. Your funny bone was just tired.
Chafed. So. It was just chafed.
Right.
But yeah, it's a really, really, really good movie in the comedy genre. I think if, like I said, like I was just thought about 3 days ago, if I was to pick one of the ones I think is the absolute most funniest and kind of represents my humor, I guess, I don't know, is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Like that movie gets me every time. Crack up just thinking about it.
So A for effort, F for understanding of the assignment.
Right.
As apparently as the director laid it out.
I mean, that's how I thought we were doing it.
I will put it out like this.
Go ahead.
I think neither of my picks were necessarily the movie that was the most funny to me on this list, actually. But I will say The Big Sick was the best movie.
Okay.
I think it was the best actual movie.
Hot takes. We're gonna rename this podcast to something about hot takes for sure. But yeah, thank you.
You're having too much fun. Who gave you
what my question was going to be is if Hot Fuzz didn't really live up to like rewatches and stuff, what out of these 10 movies would you have said was your favorite or funniest? Like, I mean, apparently Big Sick is up there for best, but was it also the funniest?
Is probably the one I didn't rewatch because I've seen that 10 times. That's What We Do in the Shadows.
Sure.
Which was already famous, so yeah. If not What We Do in the Shadows on this list was the most fun. The 9 I actually watched. The one I laughed at the most was probably Four Lions.
Why did I set you up for that? Why did I?
It's just because, well, listen, he might as well get the wrong opinion out of the way now.
But it's not the wrong opinion.
It's incredibly wrong.
I gotta say, there are several countries and apparently director Alex that I question their sense of humor. So
let's get in. It's not hot take. Arsenic Lace was the worst one.
What? Whoa! What?
That was the worst one.
That's a beautiful. Oh, you're breaking my heart. I'm totally on board with. I watched Big Sick. I love Hot Fuzz. Breaking my heart on this.
Ghostbusters
was
very good.
Weird. Like I feel like it could have been better if it had like stuck to something a little bit more. Like if it wanted to be the slapstick comedy of him tripping over a chair, fine. That it could have been that. It could have been a cartoon. It would have been fun. If it wanted to be weird and creepy, it should have leaned into that without him doing the slapstick. I found it was a weird mix of things.
That's good.
I really like. I know Ghostbusters is kind of the more conventional pick.
My brother saw the list and his comment when he saw Ghostbusters one, man, whoever picked that was like, that's such a like bitch take. Like just pick the easiest one. That's so easy to pick.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, there are a couple of things I could have done, but I don't know.
He needs it when he picked the other one.
I'm trying to give stuff representative. If I thought of Hot Fuzz, I would have said Hot Fuzz because I think Hot Fuzz over Ghostbusters any day for me. But Arsenic and Old Lace it's a classic like stage play kind of production. It has a little bit of everything, but more than anything, I think the performances are really solid. A lot of the setups aren't obviously setups, and that's one thing I really like. Is I like when the humor is really unexpected, and I think that's not too hot a take because I think humor really relies on the unexpected.
Subverting expectations is one of the key things.
One of them. And when a setup is too obvious and the payoff is too obvious and too immediate, the humor doesn't work, even if it would have been a funny line. And I think there's a lot of lines in here, not even just in the way they're written, but the way they're said. Like if you just get into the world of the movie and you hear it after you kind of understand how the rules of that universe work, right? The rules of that one room play effectively. There's a couple other little scenes, as you know, that the one central room where everything happens, pretty much. Then you might have thought after you hear the lines at the payoff, oh, I should have expected that, but you didn't because of either the way it was set up was, I think, very sharply done, or the way it was delivered. The way the payoff was delivered was almost like an afterthought, as if it were an afterthought. And there's a couple other great bits of restraint, I think, that after Cary Grant, who does all of the Cary Grant kind of things, is just exhausted at the end of the movie, and there's this fist fight, just like, ugh. And sort of like, it doesn't even show the fight because the fight's not the important part. The funny part is, his he's just over it. He can finally just sit for a bit. That's the sort of thing that I really like. I think it's like Hot Fuzz. It's a very tightly scripted movie with no wasted performances, no wasted moments. I thought it worked really well as a unison. On the other side of things, I think Ghostbusters has a lot of the same strengths, and I think both of them have this sort of fish out of water kind of where there's two halves of the movie contrasting each other. So Arsenic Old Lace has little old ladies who don't realize that murdering people is wrong. And on the other side,
I mean, hold on, you're misunderstanding your own movie, because I understood that they didn't want Mortimer to die. They were saying, don't drink that wine. That's the wine that we use to kill people. They understand that murdering is bad.
Well, they don't understand that what they're doing to the old men is bad. Is my point. So they don't understand that's murder. That's what I'm saying is they don't understand.
Don't see it as murder. Yeah, they see it as a mercy.
Yeah, exactly. And then with the other half of the movie being the Brewster brother being an actual serial killer traveling the world, and he's got the Peter Lorre doing the super Peter Lorre stuff. So there's those two halves of the movie. Ghostbusters has basically the high stakes spectacle ghost story stuff, and on the other side it's the exterminator business, and they're just sort of like I read that their media did great exposition of this. There's people are cheering him on, and they go into the building to the final confrontation. The very next shot is him exhaustedly climbing up the stairs. So there's the two halves of the movie that really interact well in both of these cases. I think kind of a high concept and a weird conjunction. And I think a lot of these other movies, like What We Do in the Shadows, does the same thing, where it's the kind of mumblecore mockumentary style film. And it's about is it Australian or New Zealand vampires?
New Zealand
vampires. So I think that's a real key element of comedy for me. Of course, Hot Fuzz, the little parish in England, conjunct with an action movie, like the country town in England. That was a gory action movie. Which is wonderful.
Sure. So one of my main questions
work switch in Hot Fuzz there, by the way, the camera, the action, you say, how they go from kind of like normal, however it is, but when he switches on, gets the weapons on and everything, and it was like they really went like bad boys and everything with the camera. Like you can really notice that.
Yeah. Everyone, there's just the dumb line they think is maybe just the payoff of the everyone's packing out here. If a farmer's moms are packing here, like
literally everyone is packing,
and their moms, and then the payoff is the actual payoff you didn't expect because you thought that was the kind of the one-off. Is the last 20 minutes of the movie when everyone's packing and everyone has the ironic name, and it's just wonderful. Fascist hag, that sort of thing. That was brilliant movie.
What were you gonna say, Justin? Sorry.
So my main question is, how the fuck did you pick Ghostbusters? Because all the times that you complain about the humor and the one-liners and the quippiness, and the unearned shit, all of this stuff, how do you sit through Ghostbusters, and how does that make sense to you?
It's not my favorite, but I think it's a very good, well-constructed comedy. It's very. I think it doesn't waste your time. It has a very tight script, and I think there's only I think there's a lot of subtlety in it. I don't know. There's a lot more going on in the movie than I think it looks like. It looks like a kind of big, broad comedy, like a Mel Brooks thing, but I think it's much more sharply written.
Oh, I mean, there's certainly elements to that, but then you've got, dude gets head from a ghost, and yes, Your Honor, this man has no dick and stuff like that. So I'm just like, I mean, absolutely, this is a comedy, right? But for Ben to pick it,
it's an unexpected. I think the yes man, this has no dick. Yes, this man has no dick. Is kind of an unexpected. I thought that's an unexpected line. It just seems to come out of nowhere. The focus of the conversation in that scene is not on, the focus on is on the is this true that that this guy did that? I forget what exactly the circumstance was.
It's funny because when you guys are hearing us ask you about these questions, you guys keep trying to justify why the movie is funny. We know Hot Fuzz is funny. We know Ghostbusters is funny.
Apparently, Andreas
ourselves. Well, yeah, except for Andreas, he doesn't still know what humor is.
He chose it.
But what I'm asking specifically about is how you sit through, the quippy humor of Ghostbusters, and then you pan it for like basically every other movie that we've talked about. That's the cognitive dissonance that I was trying to hone
for me, it's
like. What's going on here?
There's one line in Arsenic and Old Lace where you see Cary Grant kind of mumble the punchline out. It's in the delivery. It's in the unexpected quality of the payoff. I've said I like Marvel movies, and that's kind of the typical example that I think the director and I have used. It's the issue is not so much that there's humor. Humor's fine. The issue is when it has the same cadence. It's almost the same joke over and over again in terms of this cadence. It is the same kind of delivery and the same kind of delivery in the payoff. And it's sort of like when a band only knows 3 chords and they have 50 songs, so they sound the same. It's funny and I enjoy it. It's not the part of Marvel movies that I enjoy. I enjoy part of Marvel movies I really enjoy is character stuff, even some of the drama. But action scenes and some of the humor is not really what's there for me, except in cases where it's like Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's like super super sharp. I think.
Yeah, you're definitely watching the wrong style of movies if you're not there for the action, right? Like they're superheroes. Yeah. Like you get the ones where they get to talk things out, and you get the ones where they subvert some of those expectations. But even Iron Man, who is a self-stated pacifist, winds up blowing shit up in every single one of his movies.
Well, yeah. So with not to make this a whole Marvel movie thing, but what I like in superhero movies is kind of what we talked about a lot on my favorite recent episode about superheroes and superheroism. It's that hopefulness and wonder and joy and doing the right thing in the difficult circumstance and having the grit to pull through. That's the kind of thing I like about superheroes, and that's why I watched them so long, even after the humor stopped working for me. I watched 18 of the first 22. I think I just skipped the 4 movies and Hulk or something like that.
Well, yeah, Hulk barely counts, right? So, like I counted, of course, and it's technically in phase 1, but because of the way that stuff was all handled, it's complicated. But yeah, sure.
I think What We Do in the Shadows is the next natural thing because it has that same kind of conjunction of the macabre and who did What We Do in the Shadows?
That was
director.
Me.
Oh, hey.
She does actually pick a funny movie given the chance.
Oh.
Just one though. So
she picked 2 funny movies.
Thank you, Andreas.
I didn't see 4 lines. I can't
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Okay.
Same question.
I laughed at least once in the movie, right? I think I've explained this to a bunch of people, right? But I straight up reached out to some buddies in the UK and just be like, hey, you guys are locals, right? Is this movie funny to you? And I mean, unfortunately, neither of them had seen it, but they were like, oh yeah, we hear it's totally funny. And it's on some dude's list of like the top 100 movies you should see before you die or whatever. And I'm like, who's this guy? Because
somebody who wants you to die.
I don't know, man. Because I could think of 100 movies that even aren't comedies that were funnier than 4 Lions, but I'm gonna let you finish.
So I have a question, I guess. When I was rewatching it, it felt similar to me that like Borat or Bruno or Ali G, any of the Sacha Baron Cohen like character weirdness, it's like putting it in a really like Ali G going to a farm and not understanding that not everything is a dog is funny, and that's literally a thing that happened in 4 Lions of like looking at a chicken and thinking it's a rabbit, and it was funny because Kevin Novak is really good at being that really really stupid character, and I love stupid characters. So do you find Borat or Bruno funny?
No, that was it. That was exactly why I didn't find this movie funny, is because I like those other ones.
Or even better, apparently this is my turn for a hot take. No, I don't particularly find his style of humor funny. I have nothing against it, right? No, what it is, like, I like his style of satire, right? So I've sat through Borat. I like the fact that he shines a spotlight on, shit procedures and ideas that we have in our political system and stuff like that. But no, I'm not sitting there just like busting a gut while I watch this movie, right? I'm not watching it for that. So yeah, I one time, and that was the time where he talks about how he's impersonated 15 different people as he bought his supplies, right? But like, I could see humorous elements, but I didn't find it funny, right? Does that make sense? Like,
absolutely.
I could see why the terrorist who is clearly like, you know, what is he, Lenny, you know, where it's just like, tell me about the rabbits or whatever. Like, no, I'm thinking older reference, so literary, you'd have to, but the whole like. Yeah, I took a picture of my face. That's not my confused face, right? That's like one of your favorite things. And
like I will quote that at my husband once in a while. It's just like out of nowhere, I will just say, that's not my confused face. I took a picture. That's not my. Yeah.
Humorous, yes. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. I love that movie.
Yeah, no, for me, for whatever reason, and I think it was just contrasted with the seriousness of the scene and the guy trying to justify his fuck up is like, yes, every week I go down to the same corner shop, I buy the same stuff, but I disguise myself. Oh yeah, how do you do that? And after like 5 iterations, he's like, well, sometimes I go in and I'm a woman. How do you do that? Well, I just go and be like, do you have any of the stuff? And it's just like, why is she covering her face? Well, because she's got a beard. And for whatever reason, that absurdity finally broke through. But just like the rest of it.
That's the one you told me 45 minutes in I would laugh at?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's it, dude. It's wild because the rest of it, it's like, okay, you know, they're priming the pump. But they're priming the pump for like 2 hours.
I just don't get like, how like the other pieces of it were really fun. Like, I thought you said you fixed the car. I did fix the car. Did you fix it yourself? Yes, I did. Like, and it's as it's puttering away. It just I don't know. I thought all that shit was funny. Or the fact that Barry, the insecure white guy terrorist, is making them pee in their own mouths because he must be hazing people to like. I think it's hilarious, and I don't get how you can sit through some of this other bullshit and not find that funny.
What other bullshit?
I did not find Hot Fuzz funny. I thought it was okay.
Well, neither did Andreas, and he picked it, so apparently you're too good.
Whoa.
The Venn diagram of your guys' sense of humor is fucking weird, man, which is part of why I wanted to do this episode, because it's like
comedy show and tell.
Poor Lions, high to humor. Hot Fuzz, universally renowned, even by the guy who picked it. It's still
Arsenic and Old Lace and the top 10 AFI.
Nobody renounce that movie.
Yeah.
Nobody remembers it.
But
Cary Grant's dead, by the way.
Like just okay.
It was like funny adjacent. Like it was. I felt like the way that you just described Poor Lions. Like I always felt like it was priming to something that was funny, and I never had to laugh. The one time that I did laugh was when they had to bring the guy with the dog that was the translator for the really, really rural accent. That part was funny to me. Just the translation of accents.
I mean, one of the best examples of the movie, both priming the pump and then delivering the punchline on that, right, is how the dude is obsessed with what's the Point Break, right? That's the beach heist movie or whatever. And then he's like at the end, or like he's like, have you ever jumped through the air whilst firing one gun and screaming "ah"? No. Have you ever jumped through the air whilst firing 2 guns and screaming "ah"? No. That part's not funny, but later he does it. Like all of the tropes they set up in the movie, he does all of those.
I saw that first part's a little funny. It's a little funny. It's got that escalation. Right?
Yes. Like you get to the whole like, oh, I just had to off so and so in the freezer. Oh, did you get a one-liner? No, shame. You know, as he's just like getting ready for business again. You know, like
that's also.
I want to defend the moment.
I did like that moment. It didn't make me giggle, but it's like that. Like I liked it more when he was being pathetic. Of like, no, I didn't get to do the cool guy thing. Okay, more than I don't know. The Point Break and the Bad Boys like setup was so obvious that by the time it happened, I just like,
Well, I think
it was no longer an expectation subverted, or it wasn't funny to me. It was just, of course, because you said it was going to happen 10 minutes ago. It was okay. I understand why people like it. It always felt like funny adjacent to me. Like if it had done it differently, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more.
I think what you're supposed to do in a moment like that is to identify. You have to already identify with the character. If you identify with either Simon Pegg or whatever the other guy's name is, right? You identify with the competent cop or the local kind of dumb cop, and you kind of understand why one guy's asking, or you understand how it feels to have somebody pester you with questions like that, then that's what's supposed to make that funny. I mean, if you're not already bought into with what characters are like, what characters have as their motivations or their thoughts, their kind of who they are. If you're not into that, then of course the humor is not going to land. You have to have some kind of connection with the characters. So maybe that's a crucial element of this comedy that makes this stuff work. If you don't connect with the characters, then it doesn't work.
Well, and one of the other things why I usually enjoy Hot Fuzz is that like a lot of other movies that I enjoy, it's because it's clever. It's not necessarily like hilarious. I'm not sitting there just like rolling off onto the floor and like trying to find my ass or anything, right? Sorry, laughing my ass off. That was a joke for you guys at home. But anyway, it's just like
it wasn't clever. That's why we didn't laugh.
It's humorous, right? It's just like what's your birthday? February 24th or whatever the day. What year? Every year. It's humorous. It's sharp, that sort of stuff. The whole like you're in the moment. You guys are getting shot at in the concessions or in the Quickie Mart or whatever the hell, and it's like, oh, did you remember to do the one-liner? No. Oh, shame. Just stuff like that. And I mean, some of the other fun stuff is like the subversions with like YARP or the greater good. Like every single time somebody says the greater good, I have to respond with the greater good, not because it's the height of comedy, but because it's humorous and, it just like, I don't know, it just gets my funny bone, right? But yeah, I find it funny that you rank Four Lions above this. Like, you can list. So give me like 5. Can you give me like 5 scenes that were funny? Because so far I got 2 that you thought were funny.
I did like the chickens not being rabbits thing. I like the fact that
you're right. 3.
The whole bazooka thing, because like it literally has the arrow that was pointing at his face because it's going to go backwards and then they have to run out of Pakistan. A lot of the stuff with Barry of like when he had the rapper Hassan, when you picked him up after that meeting when he was pretending to do a blow up thing, like you just did that for a gesture. You think this was a gesture, and he runs his car into a wall by like 5 miles an hour. Like, this is real shit, and he's being intimidating, but also it was stupid. Or any of the time when he was yelling at his car, like the spark plugs are Jewish. Like, how the fuck are spark plugs Jewish? Obviously, he's just being very weird.
I thought it was really funny, like his brother, who is more stereotypical Muslim, and we see the police and then they break in. It's at the brother's prayer meeting, and they open up into all the ladies sitting in that little toilet with their tea.
I really enjoyed the subversion, the one that is so much more strict and fundamental, and they even yell at him of like, you're sticking the women in a tiny closet, and he's the one that was safe, versus the one that had a very like happy nuclear family and loving relationship is the one that he's going to go blow himself up. And I always feel this emotional confusion when he goes to basically tell his wife, I'm going upstairs, I'll see you there later. It's like, why am I feeling all romantic, happy feelings when he's going to blow himself up? And the Robert Jiggy Rapids, bro, I love it.
I thought that's what I think when I watched the movie. It's like, why they seem so well integrated compared to his brother, and that's kind of the point that sets up the whole police thing.
Yeah.
But I was like, why is she so supportive of this? She seems like this pretty normal, well integrated person who's a nurse, and she's just like, no, you gotta do your jihad, you gotta do it.
Yeah, because she's playing the role of the supportive, loving wife in an extremely stupid, crazy terrorist situation. And as they're talking about, like, the Watches Puffin told me to piss off because they're talking on Party Puffin to be able to have any form of sort of covert discussions, whatever. I think it's hilarious and great.
And him ending up going into the pharmacist to blow himself up, the thing he fought against the whole movie, and the Barry guy recording himself saying, "We blew up the mosque." Like that was really fun.
Yeah, because like, but if we blow up the mosque to false flag it so that someone else is going to then rise up and saying it was someone else, why are we taking credit for it when we're the and then he just gets angry and starts yelling at them to get the fuck out. Love it.
Yeah.
Slapped my knee a couple of times there. Good job.
That sounds painful. Why would you do that?
No, I just
I mean, if
Make
you
sure
want
you're
to,
nobody said I was Hulk. I didn't like knock my knee off. Like, goodness.
if EG and Justin wants a hot take to be mad about, I found like Mel Brooks movies. Nope, they're not that funny.
They're okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's right in line there with the rest of the comedy industry. So he's probably crying himself to sleep on his huge pile of money right now. So
I mean, I haven't watched a lot of them. I think maybe I'm not into parodies because, frankly, watching Knights of the Holy Grail, Knights of the Holy Grail is kind of like the same vein as Mel Brooks, except better. But it wasn't that much up there. I think Holy Grail, Blazing Saddles, and Spaceballs all have great, really, really, really great quotable lines and individually funny moments, but as a whole movie and as a comedy, the whole thing, I didn't like parodies that much. I don't like these fourth wall breaks and shit. I think.
Okay. So the problem you guys had is you guys prefer your comedies with plot, right?
Maybe
because that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, that makes sense of it.
I'm gonna break it to you. Yeah, I don't watch a lot of my comedy movies for the plot itself, right? I'm not sitting here watching Spaceballs being like, man, I really hope they save the princess and get married at the end.
Man,
that's great.
Guy,
there are a million other movies I could watch if I wanted that plot point, right? For 4 Lions, like, sure, it's got a plot and it is, it's the full story, but the comedy is also supposed to be funny. Like, for example, the 2 movies that I picked for my list were not Marvel movies because they are not comedies, even though they've got jokes. So
I did find Strangelove to be an odd choice, honestly. I didn't expect it. So, I mean, I like that movie.
That's why it's funny, because you didn't expect it.
I didn't expect the choice from you.
Why is that? Go ahead. Take the shot. You got it lined up. I'm in the crosshairs.
I guess I expected something more conventional. Strangelove felt kind of out of left field. I liked it. I mean, it's a funny movie. I just didn't.
And you're not a funny person. That's what she's saying.
Right. I am of course world renowned for my lack of a sense of humor. So I am of course over here with my detonator and my blasting vest on, and all dressed up as whatever costume.
It's funny because it's referencing that terrible movie we were just talking about.
So anyway, I mean, Dr. Strangelove is, I don't know, plastic and great. Like it's by today's standards, it's not necessarily revolutionary, but I think at the time it made better waves. But for me, like, I can't sit here and necessarily dissect it. I was not prepared for the assignment either, right? So for preparedness, I get an F. But, I can't sit here and say, well, actually, Dr. Strangelove is, of course, the classic example of go fuck yourself. I have no idea, right? But what I can tell you is that every single time that I watch it, I do laugh, and there are great moments. Like, you can't fight in here. It's the war room. Like, we're talking about subversive humor. Yes, it is almost slapstick in its basicness of humor, right? But
there was the one time when the guy fell and like stood up immediately, like whatever he like rolling somersault thing that he had done, which I think was entirely by accident, but they stuck it anyway.
It was a botched take, but George C. Scott just kept with it.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite moment of the movie, just because it is so weird in that everyone else stays in character, and it's like, did that really just happen? And it did. And I don't know.
These actors are professionals, baby. These actors are professionals. That's wonderful. Oh man, I love it.
No, not that.
What?
Oh no, I would not you. So.
Oh, okay.
I can see it was like a kind of dark comedy, right? And I can see there are funny moments, but maybe it's just a little bit too topical right now. I don't know. I was just filled with a sense of dread when I was done watching that movie.
That's the best kind of comedy is when you feel the existential crisis coming in.
Right. too close to home. These guys were like, the same era as the Cuban Missile Crisis. So, actual concerns about being hours away from launching and stuff like that. But I don't know. I'm trying to remember what the other one is that I'm, you've of course got the whole like, Mein Führer, I can walk, and just a couple other little jokes and that sort of thing. But yeah, it is political. It is kind of lampooning, the system at the time and stuff like that. But then you get the, can't fight in here. It's the war room. Well, where else would you fight? I don't know. It's like I said, I would have picked other movies, right? So one of the other ones that would have competed for this one that, we talked about in the pre-show is I probably should have put Airplane up there, right? So surprisingly, I'm not watching Airplane for the plot. I'm not overly concerned on whether or not they're actually going to land the airplane at the end of the movie. But, there's great amounts of humor in that. So that could have been one. And then, if we're going to talk about picking the ones that would define our humor better, definitely Galaxy Quest or I've got all the other ones in my head. Princess Bride would be like easily in the top 5. If we wanted to represent the horror, we could do Cabin in the Woods, but that's a little more horror. It just also has funny elements.
Movie is so good though. Like, what a great movie.
Like some of the movies that were picked do have funny elements in them, like The Big Sick. Yes, it's great that he's a comedian, and therefore there are jokes in this movie, but I would not have classified that as a comedy anywhere,
I mean,
right?
It's a romantic comedy. There's no other way to say, like, it is a rom-com. It was adorable. It's like, but if you're wanting to showcase, like, the funniest movie, I would have expected something different. So, yeah, none of us understood what we were doing with this.
I would have picked exactly these two movies, and I did it on accident. So I don't know what anybody else is.
It's like 40 to 60% like a drama. So like, while it is great that there is comedy, like The Big Sick is mostly a drama, in my opinion, of some kind. But anyway, Spaceballs again. So hilarious, like
Spaceballs is fun.
A laugh a minute, right? Like everything. Like I've seen that since I was a child. That's one of the movies that I've probably watched just about every year and could probably just sit there and quote. I mean, not a comedy, but joining it up there with like Independence Day and movies like that, where it's just like, I will sit here and I will be the one-man show that performs this movie because that's how much I like it and how quotable it is. But I mean, you know that evil will always triumph over good because good is dumb. Like, come on. Those are gems, man. Those are classic gems. That
like I said, both the Mel Brooks movies have very great quotable lines. But that's like the whole movie.
I didn't see you playing with your dolls again.
Yeah, right? Like, you shot my hair. Like, really? Only Lone Star dares give me raspberry? Like,
funny.
She didn't look Jewish?
Yeah,
right? Okay. Like, come on, my dude.
Jam the Radar. That was so bad.
The one man would do.
I thought that was I don't know, maybe because it was basically a pun. I liked that part.
Yeah. In other classic Spaceballs fashion, I knew it. I was surrounded by assholes. So, like, just come on. This shit's hilarious. Anyway, to me, like, again, I'm not watching it for the plot. I'm not overly concerned on if Lone Star gets the princess at the end, but that's, I guess, a happy aside to all of the fun that I had along the way. Like it is, I guess, mostly a parody, like you said, right? They're lampooning Star Wars and other sci-fi tropes and stuff like that. No, sir, we didn't capture them. We captured their stunt doubles. Like, all of that shit, is subversive, at least the first time that you watch it. But I don't know. I just think that shit's hilarious, I guess.
Is Tucker and Dale versus Evil a parody?
Probably, right?
I haven't seen it, but I'm pretty sure that sounds like a parody.
I mean,
if you haven't
movies,
seen it,
I guess
it's a parody of horror or something or other, right?
Well, no, a parody of horror is Cabin in the Woods. That's just a straight up parody of horror.
I haven't seen that one either.
Yeah, but they play it straight.
What do you call it?
Because
but it is subversive, right? Because I don't know, like, because you should watch it, because otherwise it's gonna spoil like the main. Like, I went into the movie expecting something entirely different. They set all of that up, right? And then it's not that. So
it's
anyway.
not. It's not classified as a comedy. Look, scrolling quickly through Wikipedia here.
It is according to IMDb.
It is a comedy. I mean, not a parody.
A parody. Yeah.
It's just black comedy. But yeah, I think you should. Everyone should watch that. It's hilarious. Really good. Yeah, I mean, I stand by my opinion with the Big Sick. Like, I mean, it kind of missed the assignment. But of these movies, I think it's the best actual movie. Like, I think it's a really, really, really good movie.
It is a great movie, right? I sat there watching it and being like, well, now I have the argument that I can make to convince people to watch this movie that wasn't given to me, right? Because it's like, well, is it a comedy? Not really. Is it kid appropriate? Well, not really. They'll probably be bored by it, and all of these like, milk toast kind of descriptions that it was like, this is a serious drama, but it's also autobiographical about a comedian. So like, yeah, sure, we could watch something about Robin Williams' life, and I will laugh because it's fucking Robin Williams, but not necessarily because of what's going on, right? It's not a comedy, right? It's it's kind of, it's fun, it's cute, it's kind of a downer in the middle. Like it's much more about the drama, and then it just like, like it didn't sink so low that like I was like, oh man, I hope this works out. Spoilers, it does. But it just, at the same time, I also wasn't just like rolling really through the movie. Like watching him have a breakdown on stage is not the height of comedy for me. I'm empathizing with him as a character. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just not what I would have picked in my comedy. Right. That's kind of the difference. So to me, it is got humorous elements. Obviously, there are jokes. They got fucking Bo Burnham. What's not funny about that, right? He's a comedian too, but like his character's not funny, so because that's not why he's there.
Yeah.
I liked it on reflection. I think I liked it more than when I was watching it. I came into it expecting the laugh out loud comedy. When I realized it was kind of just a dramedy rom-com, I was like, and then I kind of got into that mode, and I thought, this is all right.
Right.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Right. I think with Big Sick, it's a good movie, which you don't want to sell the wrong way to ruin what somebody's going to expect out of it. Right. I think it's more, and I think that a lot of the humor even comes from like the awkwardness of situations too. Oh, yeah, so you have to really be into that as your comedy, which, again, that's not saying good or bad. That's just how the movie is. So, I mean, yeah, it is what it is. I think with I'm actually more of a. I used to love Mel Brooks. I am sadly, I think, not as enamored with Mel Brooks as I used to be, which was a sad realization when I started watching Blazing Saddles. Young Frankenstein, I think, is held up better than Blazing Saddles. That maybe transition. Are we talking about that?
No, I went and I was skipped over, so we're done with me.
No, you didn't even get to start. I interjected, and the director made me defend myself. So,
no, well, so apparently I get an A for effort and for doing the assignment correctly, even though I didn't know there was a fucking assignment to this. Just pick favorite comedy movies. I think these are probably two of my favorites because I like absurdist comedies when they're done well. The more absurd one is obviously Monty Python in general, because you have the added British side to it, and they do it a lot better. Mel Brooks is a little more grounded, but I think Blazing Saddles' absurdity lies in it's not quite satire, but it's basically turning this whole, these notions of racism and class and stuff in the Old West on itself to show you the absurdity of people's beliefs. And that's where I think it works the best. Plus, I mean, absurd comedy is a very hit or miss. You can't just have things popping up and, you can't just do that and necessarily expect people to laugh, which is where I think plot is important depending on the movie. Hot Fuzz is not as good as it is without its plot, for instance. But something like Holy Grail, where it's just a very loose story of King Arthur and his knights, and then all this zany shit is happening based on what was otherwise a historical, like, serious quest. And there's a killer rabbit that comes, and a sorcerer named Tim who's afraid of it. And these things are just, it's the backdrop that makes it work, I think, in both cases. And obviously Blazing Saddles is going to probably be the one where people are either they can handle it or they can't. I mean, it is what it is. You can't do anything with that. But I think it's very clearly done in a way that it's like, no, we know who the actual idiots are in this. There's no mistaking that. And now we're going to show you just how stupid it was. And then also at the end, we're going to be going fighting through the Warner Brothers parking lot. Because, again, fourth wall break.
Like that.
I know, because you have no taste.
Well, did you, Andres, do not like Holy Grail? This is not a gotcha. Do you not like Holy Grail either for that reason?
I liked it more, but it's pretty far down there. I think it basically goes to Arsenic, the Mel Brooks movies, and Holy Grail. That's my bottom picks.
As the one person in chat said, the ending of Holy Grail still gets them every time. I think that is one of the funnier endings to a comedy, where it's just like and it's entirely based on circumstance. They wanted to have this big battle at the end, but they ran out of money, so it's like, all right, we're just gonna fucking arrest them. That's it.
Right.
that's right. And it works perfectly because that's exactly that kind of movie.
So why Holy Grail and not Life of Brian?
Holy Grail, I think it probably has to be because it was the one I saw first, I think. So
it says like nostalgia.
Yeah. I mean, I like Life of Brian. I like Meaning of Life too, but I think
you're a fan when you like the meaning of life.
Yeah, I think Holy Grail is probably just because it came first. It is probably going to have to be my answer. But
for me, the humor is a little bit more wild in Monty Python than it is in Life of Brian. Like, again, Life of Brian's got funny bits, but I'm not necessarily like rolling when the bright side of life comes on, right? Whereas like, the holy hand grenade, the rabbit, the monster named, or, the castle awe or whatever it is. Like, what do you think he died in the middle of carving it? Like, just like,
he died while carving it. He wouldn't have bothered to carve.
Right.
Well,
like,
he was dictating.
And then the Sir Robin's minstrels and everybody rejoiced. Yay.
Yeah.
To me, it's no comparison. Like I that might be a hot take, and I can be on an island by myself. Life of Brian is perfectly adequate, but Monty Python's a lot funnier in my opinion. Like, so
I feel
Holy Grail is always
Holy Grail was fine, and a lot of the moments that you guys have just said, I did enjoy. The rabbit, I think, is overdone. Maybe I think it's just been referenced too much to the point that it's no longer funny to me. But the holy hand grenade was great. It's like there's things that were
5.
So yeah, there's things that are funny, but the parts that stuck with me from Life of Brian, I thought were funnier. Like, you have the right to be pregnant even though you can't be pregnant. I don't know.
Right.
That is another thing that I will just say out of nowhere.
I'm going to get canceled for
Brian, the Crucifixion of Freedom sketch that gets me every time. Like, I think it's so good.
Gotcha. What have the Romans ever done for us is probably, well, apart from
Yeah. And maybe you have a point of I want the plot, maybe because Life of Brian has more of a plot than Holy Grail because it was so out of zany, tiny little story quest things. But I don't know. I just
even Meaning of Life has more. I think. Well, actually, I don't know. Meaning of Life is probably on the same level as Holy Grail because there's a through line there. They're talking about the meaning of life and they're going in the stages, but they have nothing to do with each other. They're each basically vignettes.
Right. But yeah, and I mean the accusation or whatever for the plot, like, I mean, obviously it has to have some kind of string to tie it together other than or otherwise it's probably just stand up, right? That's kind of what we're separating here. But I just thought it was funny, like, it made me realize that some of your guys' picks are much more about the plot than, you know, they are about the jokes. Like, I mean, even Ghostbusters, it's like, yeah, sure, the plot is important. There's a lot of cool quasi-scientific stuff going on there, but, you know, that's not necessarily why I'm enjoying the movie, right? You know, like,
yeah, the things I enjoy about Ghostbusters is not necessarily for the humor. Like, it's there, it's fine, and I can laugh at it, but that's not what drives me to enjoy that movie. But Strangelove
get really into
does seem very plot heavy, which is interesting that you chose it. Now you're saying all of this.
Well, yeah. So again, but like, I'm not picking it for the plot. Like, you know, everybody probably knows more about, you know, the Doctor Strangelove than they realize, just because that's another one of those movies that they reference all the time, right? But
there was like things happening in that movie that I had heard otherwise, but I hadn't seen it before. Where I was like, oh, so that's where that reference is from.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's part of what I went into it for, is that it is foundational in a similar kind of sense, that it's like, you know, a lot of horror comedy stuff is going to pull its roots from Ghostbusters, right? You know, but yeah, I don't know. The stuff that I enjoy for Ghostbusters isn't the, you know, oh, watch them, you know, go from being fired from their university jobs and pulling themselves up from their bootstraps and becoming businessmen. What a great feel-good story. No, it's back off, man. I'm a scientist. Like, that's the shit that that sells that movie for me, right? That was your plan, get her. You know, I just. Yeah.
Well, I think what works in that is partially because they're leaning so much on they're just schlubs. It's a schlub comedy. They're just being schlubs. That's the point of the movie, is they have no competence. And so I think that line in particular plays into that, in fairness.
I mean, yeah, that's almost a hot take. Obviously, Egon has loads of competence. Like,
oh, sure,
you know,
sure.
They're inventing, you know, they're inventing an industry. You know,
Dan Aykroyd, meanwhile, is not even playing a character. That's just who he is. Well, he's a true believer in aliens and stuff, ghosts, isn't he?
Okay.
No.
I don't dig so deep into the actors usually either. So, like,
fair enough.
But sure, maybe. So, what did we learn?
Ghostbusters is great. I mean, I was like, there was no bad movies on the list, in my opinion. They were all good. Bill Brooks stuff, Monty Python was the least for me. Arsenic and Lace were probably just too old for me. But I definitely learned the fourth wall, like big parody movies. Yeah, I guess it's just not for me anymore. I guess if I remember really liking Scary Movie as a teenager, but if I went and watched it again, I think I would probably not like it so much, because that's kind of in the vein of the Mel Brooks and kind of movies, right? Like, that's definitely what they were inspired by.
I would say that it is not as good by any measure, but yes, it's got the same.
Sure, I was referencing something that I used to really like, whereas like that was a parody, like this kind of parody comedy, which was like the first Scary Movie, which I think I would not enjoy if I watched it now, from what I learned watching, because those movies are highly praised and foundational, right? So it's me who might be in the wrong. I just didn't think they were that funny. Great quotes though. You know, stupid people.
Right.
Morons.
Salt to the earth.
See?
Yeah.
It all comes back.
It's very quotable. Yeah. Very quotable. You got to give it that.
I mean, quotes are great, but quotes are not necessarily what makes a movie good. It just seems to be there frequently.
It's a cart and a horse thing, right? Or a chicken and the egg. Is the movie great because it's quotable, or is it quotable because it's great? Like, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's like it's not a requisite that the movie is quotable in the sense that, like, that's the priority, right? The quotableness comes because I loved the movie, right? You know, and if I didn't pull anything out of it to remember, if I can't harken back to all the laughs that I had in Four Lions, then it wasn't funny, right? Like it wasn't, you know, like a lack of quippiness. I can't think of a single line coming out of The Big Sick that I would sit there and I would quote necessarily and be like, oh, this is a representation of that humor. But that doesn't make it a bad movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so I can tell you some of the reasons why I liked, the Big Sick, for example, and it's not necessarily eminently quotable, right? But a lot of the other, action, comedy, the sci-fi stuff like that. I mean, shit, Pitch Black, some of the more humorous moments out of that. I quote Pitch Black. It's not a comedy or anything like that, but one of the more humorous lines is like, "I thought you said it was clear. How does it look now? Looks clear." That's a funny line. Doesn't make Pitch Black a comedy, right? But it is quotable, and that's just one of those metrics for me, anyways. Is like, did I watch the movie and pull something out of it? On the flip side of it, stuff like Rise of Skywalker is eminently quotable, but they're all stupid, terrible, bad quotes. So like, it's quotable doesn't mean that it's good. So I was just sitting here thinking about it too, because that seemed to be the focus, especially on my end, is like, the fact that it's quotable doesn't necessarily make it good, but because it's good, it's gonna be quotable, right? And I think the more that I pull out of it is the more good pieces there were, right? Independence Day, Monty Python, Galaxy Quest, I can go down the line. If I can quote your entire movie, it's probably a good sign, right? But not necessarily like the other way around.
The tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Right.
Like,
yeah. So that, they say it's a tragedy, but really it's a dramedy, right? So it's like when he starts offing all of the other Sith, hilarious. Entrails, what's not funny about that? But
he could save others from 4 lions, but not himself.
4 lions.
Now that's comedy.
Like, you get to
4 lions when he's choking. That's from follow that scene. It's really funny.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's choking in 4 lions.
Yeah, very.
Again, I only watched the first 20 minutes, so I don't know.
And so, trying to do the Heimlich on him, and then he exploded.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Man, Director Ellis has great taste.
Thank you.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. There's no way to predict you guys or like draw a line where it's like, because you sided with Ben this time, you're totally going to be against the director here. No,
just having the wrong take. That's all you need to do. That's Andreas and Ben, quite honestly.
Oh,
right.
I think Andreas. I think you're a stand-up guy.
He's not. He's sitting down. You're lying.
Ben has some weird silver lining stuff, at least, though, right? Because he picked Ghostbusters inexplicably, and then he likes Fast and the Furious, which is good for you. Of all the people to like have an in with, you and Ben never saw it coming. But
hey, listen.
So
Fast and Furious are great movies.
It's a series about
they really are.
And if that's not plot, I don't know what is.
Cars going into space, just somehow plot. Sure.
Yes.
I can't.
Well, that was because they had to figure out a way to top it after the whole, like cargo plane thing, right?
Correct.
So, yeah.
No, yes, there was the cargo plane. There was a submarine.
Oh, wow! Space. I had no idea.
Yeah. We'll see what happens when you miss out on the greatest series of our generation.
Yep, totally. Yeah. So, yeah. I wonder if they're gonna like do Fast and the Furious on Mars or something, but I am really concerned about you.
Mars.
Wait, we are the average of Cody's opinions.
That is unfortunate. How that happens is beyond me.
Feel like
in this of all things,
right? I find that interesting. Like, this was a very interesting exercise to like have this discussion because it did.
Everybody but me did wrong. Apparently,
yes. But like, because it came out of a confusion of like, this wasn't funny, that was funny, or what, and it's like, now I can kind of understand sort of some of it a little bit more. And we're all still basically the same dumb nerds if Cody is the sum of what we agree on.
I think that says more about him than it does about us, quite honestly.
Well, he's our, he might be our perfect fan then, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, now he's going to kill us all individually because we can't disappoint him after this. He went 5 for 5. So now he's got to end us.
Oh, I've disappointed him before, and I will again, I'm sure. So
yeah, he gets upset all the time.
We can go back to talking about Dune if we want to upset him. That seemed to get him really
Dune,
riled up.
oh, there's a wonderful.
I
movie.
can't wait. Christopher Walken is
Yeah.
the Emperor.
Is the
Come
Emperor?
on. Yes.
I heard his cast. He was like, who's gonna play? Oh,
I have faith,
oh,
but at the same
no.
time, like I would have never called it. That's for sure. Like
He's in Severance, by the way, Justin.
yeah, I haven't gotten any further. So, but watch the first episode. Hopefully, it will actually give us something to chew on eventually. But
it's very
Most-
tightly plotted and paced. I feel like I don't. Yeah. Did you
certainly
like
not paced,
Breaking
not the
Bad?
first episode.
I
So.
don't agree.
Well, yeah. The problem with Breaking Bad for me is like Breaking Bad is a really good show, and I can see why everybody loves it, but it crosses into territory that I have got no interest being entertained by. Right, so it pushed a little. It pushed a little too far into the whole let's build meth and murder people aspects, which for me is just cringy and not enjoyable. But not a commentary on the fan base, but it's a big reason why I don't like Game of Thrones either, right? So, there's
no meth in that one.
Yeah, you pushed a kid out the window in the first episode. I'm done. Like, no thanks. So
Sometimes you got to push a kid out a window. Didn't we have this conversation like 3 weeks ago?
probably, and you're still wrong about it. So yeah.
Sometimes you got to be able to hit a kid. Oh yeah, and we established the age. I think what was it, 6? Where you can start.
No, I
kids?
said it's at least north of 6 that I could tell you that I have a 6-year-old, and no thanks.
And then we can punch them. Okay.
I mean, if you want to go with the Mormons, for example, the lower end there is at least 8. Supposedly 8 is where you become self-aware that you can get baptized, and then you can sin. But until that point, you're perfect. So, but
What if you get kicked in the head by you or your age forever?
So
I mean, at some point, kids get-
before 8.
yeah.
I mean, kids.
I'm pretty sure
differently at a
pre-8-year-olds
certain age. Doesn't have to be like programmatically 8, but kids act
No,
differently.
of course not. But it's not my belief. It's just one I'm familiar with. But no, I mean the reason why I don't think
that's right.
you should hit kids after at any point for a lot of that stuff is because it's going to be a reflection of you or their environment. Not your kid didn't just get born an asshole. I'm a fan of the blank slate theory. So my kid is an asshole because I'm an asshole, not because he's an asshole, right? Like, does that make sense? So yeah.
So everybody's getting punched in your house is what you're saying.
All the time. Yeah. Got to use these guns for something. So
Guns. It's funny because they're pale and not guns at all.
exactly. Yeah. See, subversion. Director's got skinnier arms than me, but that's about it. So
I don't know about
Thank you.
that.
noodle arms. So
Listen, they can
Is that like
hold
a
up those
venture
wine
club?
jugs apparently. So
Right.
It did its job.
Does she have like a bottle of hooch? Like, is that the thing? You got the jug where you're like over your shoulder sipping it? Is that anyway?
I did
You've
actually
got the
put
power
it
to
in a
end this
glass.
anytime.
I was classy enough for that.
Wow.
classy is a word. I wouldn't apply it to you, but okay.
Right.
Is it classy if it comes from a cardboard box but goes into a glass?
no,
No.
Classier. I mean, it's
No.
better.
It's only classy if it comes from the wine region of France. Otherwise, it's just sparkling hangover. So
If you put box wine in a crystal glass, it's still box wine. It hasn't changed the property. You haven't Jesused the properties. You haven't changed it into anything good. You have simply taken box wine and put it in a glass that's too good for it, which is every glass. You should just be drinking that from a solo cup.
I
getting
don't
really
know. I don't
called
drink
out here.
wine.
I guess we're done with this episode. What are we doing next time? Do we have any ideas? Are we going to go no topic? Are we
Favorite
Gonna-
liquors next time.
oh, geez.
With a night before of sampling.
Well, we could do the same thing, but with a different genre. Horror movies.
Oh man, I don't know. Are you guys going to be able to hang? Like, I can't wait. Like, so you got Night of the Living Day rocked up in there, or
No, Ben's
sorry,
going to
Night of
pick
the Living
Psycho.
Dead.
He's going to pick Psycho.
No, well,
Okay. Yeah,
that's.
I would just like to have it clarified. If we do horror movies, do we pick the movie that scares us the most, or the horror movies we think are the best?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
anymore.
director.
Well, we had actually a thing to explore between us with this thing. I don't know with the horror movies if there's something to explore there. Honestly, we could do a ranking thing.
I think there's something to explore if we take the movies that scares us the most. I think there's something to explore there.
Here comes a bunch of clown movies with small children.
Right, or it's just gonna
noobs.
like Attack of the Spiders.
The most recent clown movie with the small child is great because that child gets his arm bitten off and killed, so it's perfect.
Well, that was part
birds,
one.
one stone.
So part two was I mean,
they
if
were
we
all
went
adults,
with scared us the most, man, that's even more trickier. So
I would have to think about it because
I think I've only got
my
one,
favorite horror movie is
settling to me.
Yeah. My favorite horror movie is not one that scared me the most. And then depending on the director's takes, like I could see her favorite horror movie would be like Alien or Aliens, maybe. I'm just spitting here. I have no idea what your tastes are. But it's
scare
not
me.
Yeah,
but I love those movies, so it's right. But probably the one most unsettling, Hereditary.
Haven't seen it, but I've heard.
I don't know if you should, honestly.
Well, you're a fan of children getting hurt.
Oh yeah. Oh, you know what? This is a terrible idea. Never mind. I forgot about these movies.
Right.
I forgot about
well,
these
and so like that's worth discussing too. Like, straight slasher flicks and like torture porn shit, right out, right? So it's like if some of that stuff comes in, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when they redid that one in like the early 2000s, and I think they just redid it again because of course they did. Like that one's right out. Like I won't watch that shit. Sure, it's horror, whatever, but to me it's like a different genre. But for me, like I mean, I've talked about it before. I like a lot of existential shit where it's just like the common dude against, the impossible types of stuff and seeing how he handles it. So like one of my favorites is The Mist, right? That is probably my favorite horror movie, but does that one keep me up at night? Not really, so
that's such a happy ending.
Yeah. Right. So especially all the kids and the flowers and the singing and,
This is Carrie.
But so yeah, so it could be fun in that regard. Like, why do we think this is the best versus,
the Nicolas
Nightmare
Cage
Fuel?
Wicker Man.
Yeah, great. Not which one is the memeiest. Like, look, man, if you're gonna watch The Wicker Man, at least watch the original.
No.
So
Saruman's on it. Cage running around in a bear suit, punching people, and then screaming "Not the bees." Otherwise, it is not Halloween.
Yeah.
I saw that movie a really, really long time ago, but I don't remember a damn thing about it.
Well,
The Wicker Man?
Yeah.
It is a terrifying movie in the sense that they remade it for no reason, and it was horrifically bad. But I don't think that counts towards your parameters.
Yeah.
So we have no idea what we're doing next time because apparently we need to discuss it a lot more.
We just said horror movies. Well, where were you for the last 5 minutes?
But we basically ended on the fuck of what are we doing with it? It's like, and I honestly don't know because I don't.
Nobody knew what they were doing with it this time, apparently.
Which is why I'm trying to make it so we have more of a direction, more of a rubric.
Why? We had a great episode. Look how happy Cody is. He was 5 for 5. It was the best episode we've ever had.
You know, we fucked up if Cody comes away happy.
Right.
Ooh,
like
poor Cody.
Usually he's never happy. He's always like mad at something.
It's his European hatred.
No. Well, Cody says to wing it, so fucking knows. All right.
We'll do something. Man, we can pick two movies. You can pick the best horror movie and the scariest horror movie. Why don't we do both?
Each of us has
you and I are both picking Cabin in the Woods.
Of best and one pick of scariest.
No, man, I love Cabin in the Woods, but it's
Tucker and Dale's goes on for best for me then because it's a black comedy horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, because that's a third category, right? If you want to do the funniest horror movie, then sure, absolutely, that could be up there. But And it's also, it could be best for different reasons, right? Like I think Cabin in the Woods is the best because it's hilarious or whatever, because it represents all the tropes and blah, who gives a shit. Now I'm sounding like Ben, but that, to me, that's not what's the best. So
Okay.
I got you. I'm sorry.
It's funny
I had to
because
take
no
a
one
shot.
should want to sound like Ben.
I want.
Yeah. So, but
I'm sui generis. I'm one of a kind.
yeah, really, I really don't see everybody like picking up and watching like It Part 1 and 2, though. For example,
They should only watch part 1 because
you know.
part 2 sucked.
Yeah, whatever.
It did. It was terrible compared to the first one, especially.
You're just sad because the train wasn't involved, or what?
No, I never read. I think we've had this discussion before. I've never actually read anything Stephen King has ever written. I don't care about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, who would read books? E.g.,
No,
what a ridiculous concept.
When it comes to faithful adaptation, like there are things that'll bother me, but
how about read it because
a movie
it's good.
should stand on its own. Oh, really? So you
Yeah.
wanted the child orgy scene in the first one? That would have made
of
it that
course
much
not.
better.
But it's the difference between figuring out who's actually read the books and what they wanted out of the movie, and
Right.
Because like nobody ever fucking talks about that. So I'm gonna tell you what a big surprise it was when I read it. Like what the hell does this have any point being in the books for?
You have to please the
but-
turtle god, and this is apparently how he gets off.
Right.
Ugh.
Look, man, when you're an unknowable eldritch god, you can have weird,
It
induction
was
ceremonies
the
too.
50s. What is the big deal?
And probably a lot of cocaine was involved, is usually the excuse. That
And there's the real answer. Yeah. Right.
yeah, right. Exactly.
No, I don't think the
Right.
kids did any cocaine. I don't think that's right.
We don't know that. Yeah, they cut out the drugs because it was the
I don't know,
50s, but they left the
50s? Weren't coke just like
Yeah, it was in their soda. They didn't have to do cocaine. They just had to have a drink.
Alrighty then.
We'll figure it
We're
out.
going to do a thing in 2 weeks. Join us next time as we discuss.
Something.
Something.
We'll edit that in later. So
We do it.
Edit.